So we're finally here in a tag fighter era because the amount of tag fighters we have is absolutely insane. Mainly, of course, Marvel's back because we got Marvel Fighting Souls coming out next year from Arxis. That's going to be hype. I'm going to do a lot of content for that, or at least try to. But before that, we have Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact, which still gets some points because it's being made by aiding the developers of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that game is still getting hella play to this day. Hell, I play it crazy to this day. So yeah, Hunter x Hunter, even if it doesn't go crazy in terms of competitive support or anything like that, it's still gonna pop the fuck off for just being a fun game. Like, I've played it myself at CEO, the demo online, I've clocked like maybe almost 10 hours into it. So yeah, the game is fun. I can say right here, the game is fun. It's so crazy though how many tag games we have, honestly. The bills are high because we got Hunter x Hunter, Marvel, 2XKO, Invincible Versus, and a fifth one I'm forgetting that I'm just going to display right here. It's just like, dang, why we got so much? But going back to Hunter x Hunter, it's still an aiding tag game, so you already know there's some stupid stuff in there. Again, I experienced it at CEO, stuff like Krollo's indoor fish supers. You can just repeat them over and over and still be successful. And Leorio's just, well, he's just Leorio. He just hates the floor. So yeah, Nen Impact, still a pretty BS game, but hey, it's fun. And we get 16 characters on launch, which, don't get me wrong, it's a nice start, better than another tag game, but yeah, Marvel 3 ended up with like 48 characters in total, so Hunter x Hunter, we got to go from 16 to 48, we got to get some more characters in there. Luckily, we do know we're getting DLC. It was confirmed during the Evo Rewards, and we already know that Pito is going to be the first DLC character, and 3 more are going to be in that pass. So I'm going to make the executive decision and just make a potential rest of Season Pass 1 and also a Season Pass 2. I try to make both of them themed towards arcs and, you know, similar characters between each other. Tried to go for stuff that I could realistically see, and I also included 3 more characters that I honestly never realistically see being added to this game unless we get like Season Pass 27 or something. But I love them, and I think they'd be really cool and really unexpected. Now, I'm not going to go into like the intricacies of every single character moveset, like, okay, this is going to be your light, this is going to be your medium, this is going to be your heavy, this is going to be your JH, this is going to be every single special. I will go into specials, not every single one I can, like, possible, but just a hypothetical so that you guys at home can just kind of get a gist of, okay, this is kind of like my mindset on how I think they play. And again, we got a lot of safe options, but I really want the unsafe options. I really do. But either way, let's lock in. And we're going to start off with the first season pass, which I'm going to dub the Royal Guard / Chimera Ant Arc. And you might be like, okay, Royal Guard, so we're probably going to get Poof and Yuppie in this pass, but why / Chimera Arc? Well, obviously there's only 3 Royal Guards, so I'm going to add I mean, come on. Knuckle is a prime Shoto in the making. I don't even need to say nothing. We can give him DPs, neutral skips, everything. But I also just really love his character. You know, he's just a cool, tough guy. He's got the biggest heart in the world for Shoot and all the dogs that he took care of when trying to fight, going over and over to secure NGL clearance. So he's got a place in my heart. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. But obviously, there are also all-arounders already in Nen Impact. So how can we make him a little different? Well, I think we can make him a very good poison type of character, mainly through his ability Hagaware. Now, it's a little complicated, but simply put, once Knuckle is able to land a punch on their opponent, he can apply APR, which starts Knuckle depositing Nen to his opponent in their little aura bank. This also gains interest by about 10% every 10 seconds. It can also gain debt by Knuckle landing more hits, so if Knuckle's able to hit you, that's more aura being put towards you and towards your debt, and you can start paying off your debt by hitting Knuckle back. Now during this APR phase, no damage is truly being dealt to either person, and APR ends once either the opponent pays their debt off and gets enough hits on Knuckle, or they go over their total natural aura amount. If that's the case and they overextend, APR becomes IRS. It locks the opponent's access to Nen for a total of 30 days, no matter what. This does happen to Gon, and during this time, obviously, Killua was mainly trying to protect him because he did not have access to his Nen. Now, it does make it a little hard to put into a fighting game. Obviously, we can't just make it so that no damage happens for a couple of seconds after a hit. So what we can do is through a neutral skip, which, we can make like a shoulder jab, I think would be pretty appropriate. The first and only first truly connecting hit that's able to damage your opponent will apply APR, which also starts taking the opponent's super gauge, specifically the super gauge, because that is Nen. It can go back up to the opponent if they are able to hit Knuckle, or it'll keep going down faster if they get hit by Knuckle. Now damage will still be done here because obviously, as I said, we can't remove that or else the game will last forever. We're trying not to hit 2x KO numbers, but only Nen is affected here. If it goes from APR to IRS, where, your super bar is nothing, then the opponent will just have their Nen build up from attacks drastically decreased. How you're able to build up Nen from doing attacks, it'll just be very, very minute. And obviously, they can't really use their Nen aura for a little bit. We'll do like 30 seconds once you activate IRS. Or, honestly, just until Knuckle is off of the screen. I think that's more appropriate. This will also benefit Knuckle, obviously. Knuckle will have full Nen if it is successful, which means he can be able to use his level 3, where he takes all the Nen gained from his opponent and throws it back at them, and just like a big giant punch, I think would be appropriate because of all his Nen. It's really hard to make an ability like this, honestly, especially when it applies to a super gauge, but hopefully Knuckle won't be too OP with this concept, and if it is, that's just tag fighters. That's just how they work. Knuckle still can get his shit kicked in the game, though, as if APR is applied near the start of the game, then there's not much Nen to take. So obviously Knuckle is not going to be getting crazy stuff. Probably going to want to save that to a little bit later. If that's the case, maybe we can have like a down special to where he can activate for his neutral skip to apply APR. So there's a lot that could happen. But either way, that's sort of the concept I have. Obviously, the other character sections aren't going to be this long. This is a big concept. So how about we just go to the Royal Guard that he was mainly fighting with. Yuppie is the Royal Guard I'm going to start with, since, again, the main Royal Guard we see fighting when the Extermination team raids the palace, mainly fighting against Knuckle and Shoot, though Meleoron and Moral do help out there too. We see 3 clear Nen abilities that Yuppie has, and if we implement them well, I feel like Yuppie can make a really strong brawler-grappler hybrid. Let's start off with Metamorphosis, which mainly allows Yuppie to change his body into a way he sees fit. He can give himself more eyes, he can give himself more arms, he can make himself really big, he can do a lot of things. I think for his back special, we can pretty much just give him Pont's Hammerfall, which can work like if he puts in the input, rushes forward, he has armor, but if you input it multiple times, you grow more sets of limbs, which can allow you to attack sooner. So if you spam it for a maximum of 2 more times, you get an extra 2 sets of limbs that will reach farther, which I think will be pretty cool. And I think we can give him a command grab in his forward special, where he can slam his opponent back and forth with all of his limbs, similarly to how Super Scroll does it. Also, I think Super Scroll can be a good inspiration for Yuppie's second ability, Rage Blast. Now, how Rage Blast works is once Yuppie gets enough rage, he's able to channel that into a giant explosion. This mainly happens after Killua activates Godspeed and starts actually landing hits on Yuppie. So I think for his down special, we can pretty much replicate Super Scroll's Meteor Smash, where he jumps up and then crashes down in a giant explosion. And what we're also going to do is give Yuppie a rage meter. The more he's hit, the more rage he gets, which he can use to increase the big boom and damage on that down special, which also can be cashed out for his level 1, where he can make a giant explosion on the ground, similarly to how he originally discovered Rage Blast. And for his last ability, I think it's perfect for a level 3, because we're going to do Rage Incarnate. It's perfect for an install super. We're going to give him increased damage during that time, explosion effects for all of his moves, including his normals, paired with Rage Meter. That's also going to pretty much be a multiplier for the explosion and the damage. But we're also going to make it last for very little. Think of the Godspeed install for Killua. Very little time. You're going to be able to dash up on your opponent and that will hit them. So we're just going to make it simple like that. So we got him as a solid grappler. Also can be able to lay some pretty solid damage. I imagine that Pito will be more rushdown centric. Or it could be a really solid support too with Dr. Blythe. But we still got to complete the trilogy, so let's go talk about obviously, we've talked about really good point and really good anchor characters already. It's a tag game. Let's complete the trilogy with a really solid assist support with Poof, as he was mainly recon during the Chimera Ant arc, so I think he's perfect for some broken assists. Now, like the other two, I tried to include all of his Nen abilities, but I can't see it being feasible with Poof. Like, how in the hell am I supposed to incorporate stuff like cocoons used to turn humans into Chimera Ants? Maybe like a web ball like Spider-Man? So, okay, maybe we can include that, just like Spider-Man's, web cocoon. But that's it, as like a neutral special as a projectile. I can see that. And, we can't really make the reconstruction of his body to look like Utter's an ability. That's just not feasible. You're going to be able to see through that. So that's kind of a dud. It's purely superficial, by the way. So, yeah, dud. We can use Beelzebub, however, as a forward special, where he can send a bunch of his chibi selves, parts of him, flying at his opponent like as a beam fireball, which I think could be very good. Of course, beams in tag games are super good for supports, so I think that's pretty strong. Spiritual Message, however, will probably be the best Nen ability to use here. Now, Spiritual Message produces a lot of tiny scales from Poof, and if they get breathed in, Poof can hypnotize that person. We can't make a low-tier god button for Poof, can't make it be like, alright, cease all function. So instead, I think it's fair for his down special to be able to produce the Mist of Scales, which can be used as a stun or guard crush. Think like a big ball of it, like right in front of Poof. His back special can actually be the Beam of Scales, which can cause the opponent, if hit, to have decreased offensive power for 5 seconds. However, when this move is used as an assist, and you hit your point character that's out in the field, you can actually increase your teammate's attack power. So that's already going to make Poof a strong assist from that alone. But you can use his slow scale mist too to cause the start of a signature Marvel DHC combo, and honestly, for the hell of it, it can OTG too. Why not? We can just say that they are bending the Poof's will. That's why, kind of like Impact Palm with the down special. Impact Palm right in front of you, they fall over, OTG, and a lot of time to set up too. There we go. We completed the trilogy of the Royal Guards. Very good. And of course, as I said before, this is going to be that Chimera Ant arc pass. And we will get to that second Fiend pass too. But first, I want to take that hard detour and talk about the 3 characters that I really don't see coming in anytime soon, but I'd love for them to. And I'm talking about them here because they're all Chimera Ants. So I think it makes sense to talk about them here. So let's start off with So I mainly play Chip Zanoff and Strider Hiryu in Guilty Gear and Marvel respectively, and that's just because I love pixie characters, as I've stated before. very fast, though they have very little health. They got a lot of strong normal options, and of course mix. And I think we need to add Cheetu in this game because he seems like the prime candidate for that gameplay style, able to constantly zoom around his opponents in Hunter x Hunter, like against Knuckle and Moral in that fight. So I think it makes sense to have the same mindset here. We can give his forward special a version of Risho, which includes those high-low mix-ups, press forward for high and down for low. We can also give him an 8-way dash, and yes, this includes an air dash, just because he's that fast. He's jumping because he's so fast. And honestly, let's just make his back special Centurion Rush from Nova, where he goes in with one of his Nen abilities, which is this cross-pro claw type of thing. We never get the name. But his claw crossbow, very good for running in with the claw, but the crossbow has very, very slow moving projectiles. We can use that as his down special, you know, just like pew, get a little fireball going, which he can run in with. Think very broken characters in Fatal Fury right now, who I will not name. He can kind of play like that, so that could be very, very good. So we got pretty much all of his specials, and that was one of his Nen abilities. The other one, I don't really know what to do with. It's a goddamn domain expansion where you have to tag Cheetu to escape, or else you risk your death. I mean, we can do that for a level 3, since all Cheetu needs to do to activate it is hit the opponent with the intention of the domain expansion, but he can only use this super once. So maybe after, just do a barrage of fast attacks that don't domain expand. That's the thing with that Nen ability. That's why he needed to get the crossbow with the claw, because he couldn't use the other Nen ability because he could only use that once. So unfortunate, but hey, we still got a lot of good specials in there too. Of course, health gonna be absolutely dog shit, as I stated before, since with all this speed and mix we got going on here with high-low mix-ups and neutral skips and slow fireballs, he can't have health. And you know what? I'm going to make an executive decision too, just because I feel like it. Just give him Nova's 2M and JH, because I want them. I feel like having them on Cheetu, that'd make him so much stronger. I mean, I already gave him Centurion Rush. So there we go. We got the perfect rush down glass cannon. And before the comments say anything, if anybody watches this video, he does have a third Nen ability, but we never learn what it is, what it's named, what it does. So I'm ignoring it. But either way, got our rushdown character. Let's switch back to our zoner assists with... Now, I know Blaster doesn't get some crazy screen time. He does get a little character development at the end of the Chimera Ant arc when he's able to stay in the same village as Reyna, which is very nice. But god damn it, he's a cool lobster with fucking turrets in his claws, dude. Like, hell yeah, I want him in here. With that, obviously he's going to be his owner. I mean, he's got turrets for claws. We're going to give him Doom's Plasma Beam for his forward special, where he just fires a bunch of blasts in a fast succession to the point where it just works as a beam. And honestly, I want to make for his neutral special that, but he aims at the sky at like a 45-degree angle. You know, just give him a really solid anti-air. I think that's cool. Down special, let's just make it Doom's Photon Shot, where he just fires everywhere, a bunch of barrages around him. And for his back special, I want to use the other way that Blaster used his claws, and that was to propel himself, you know, back. And we can do that to propel himself in any direction with those two big shots on the ground, which he can also use as a neutral skip if he wants to go close range, or just as, honestly, a strong movement option. We can use this as his 8-way air dash too. You know, he can just shoot to move back, to move up, to move anywhere he likes. So, yeah, these moves can be very strong as assists, obviously. This will make Blaster a strong zoner, strong assist demon, and you know what? I'm going to throw it in here too. Again, it's my video. I realized I just made him a little butchered version of Dr. Doom, so he's going to have a foot dive. He never foot dives in the anime or the manga, but he does here because the spirit of Dr. Doom has now resided in him, because Dr. Doom needs to be in every tag game. So he's in Blaster for some reason. Like how Melee could just appear out of nowhere, this transition also did, because I could not think of a single segue. Sure, it's the last of the Chimera Ants, I could have lived with that, but hey, whatever, we're already here. I wanted to include him because I honestly just find him really appealing, even though he doesn't have any fighting abilities. He says himself that any squadron leader can just kick his ass in like 2 seconds, but that's okay, because I think he'll be a really strong support and mix-up potential character, especially with Perfect Plan and God's Accomplice, which, if you don't know, allows him to turn invisible as long as he can hold his breath. The only difference between the two abilities is that God's Accomplice allows him to extend his body to anybody he touches, and that allows them to turn invisible too, and pretty much be undetectable to the outside world, which is awesome. Also give him rather low damage multipliers because of his inexperience in combat, kind of reflecting that. But of course, he'll make up for this by being a very strong neutral player, since instead of giving him straight up invisibility, let's just give him a shit ton of teleports, baby! Woo! Perfect for any mix-up character. Back special, we're gonna make him teleport away to the corner. Gonna be the neutral special, allows you to teleport above where you just were. And for the forward, we're gonna be teleporting you right above your opponent. Look at that! And for his down special, let's just make him invisible for a few seconds. Your opponent's not gonna know where you are, but if they hit you, you can do a bike and parry. We're just gonna give him that because I think it's a pretty good sounding ability. I also want him to be a really strong support, since that's what most of his abilities were used for during the Chimera Ant arc on the raid on the palace, mainly with allowing Knuckle to get some hits in on Yuppie and initially registering his APR. Because of this, we'll make it so that all of his assists will give the user the same actions as Melee if he used them alone. Now, this does mean that anybody can use his specials as he causes them himself on his teammate, but this will make Melee a little bit of a weaker playable character himself. But in turn, these abilities, of course, also are only able to be used while he's on the team. So there's some insane mix-up potential here for him and anyone he assists. It'll make him really strong in the neutral round start if you put him on point, as he can immediately teleport, and you can try to tag people in and out so that you can give them Melee assists. Again, I don't imagine any of these free characters getting in anytime soon, but I still think they got really strong potential, and hell, they're pretty synergistic with each other, so we can slap in another Chimera Ant at the end, maybe either Welfin or Lael or somebody else, maybe Flutter too, and that could be a really strong Chimera Ant pass. So there's possibilities in there. Either way though, gotta get to that year 2 pass, and I decided to just look at the Phantom Troop roster and just be like, okay, who have we not added? And I think the one that's prime for a fighting game is... Now, I don't see why we didn't get Finks in the base roster. There is an arm wrestling contest that was with all the members of the Phantom Troop as of the start of the York New City arc, which also displays their raw physical strength, where Finks actually ranks second among the group, only beat by Eulogian. So I think the results are right there. He's prime for a fighting game, especially because his Nen ability allows him to be a pretty strong candidate, and it relies a lot on his physical strength with his Ripper Cyclotron. If you don't know how this ability works, it's that he gains more and more aura when he winds up his shoulder in a clockwise rotation. He's actually able to kill a Chimera Ant in just one punch after 15 windups, and he even expected that he only needed half of that in order to have the same effect. Now, I want to give Finks a Cyclotron meter because of this, where he can charge with his down special, let's say, which has him winding up his shoulder, of course. While we will be leaving him idle, defenseless because of this, I'll still allow him to use assist in this state, in order for him to continue to charge up his Cyclotron. And on top of that, he'll also have a hit of armor on this move, so that, he can still have some protection. Well, we'll be fair. Now, in return, the more meters you get, the stronger your attacks will be. This will be a never-ending meter. I'm making a never-ending meter. It's because it's my video. And there's no canonical way, as we know of, to counter this ability,
but we can make it so that if somebody can break their charge, that meter will be reset, as he wasn't able to charge his ability and end it himself, as he can stop anytime once the user stops holding the input. For his other specials, let's give him a strong neutral skip in his forward special, which will act on par. Let's just give him Slayer's Mappa Hunch. I think that's pretty strong. And his back special, I want to give him a back special where he just punches through somebody, similar to how he punched through Dalsohene and throws them away, just like nothing. Basically a command grab. And honestly, we can also give him a neutral special. Actually, let's make his neutral special Mappa Hunch, and his forward special, he can just pretty much teleport to the opponent and look like he's snapping their neck. Kind of like how he just rushed through a bunch of suits and just kept decapitating necks along with Phaeton when the Requiem was happening. I think that's pretty strong. I think that's pretty strong. Of course, this will make Finks a very strong brawler that can make himself even stronger with his meter. So I think he'll be very good for people that like to play Slayer and Guilty Gear and other characters like that. Now, there was only one other Phantom Troop member that was able to rank above Chrollo, and that was Franklin, who was able to lock in at 4th place. Now, for how I think Franklin will play, pretty much just imagine Potemkin, right? Potemkin, very slow moving, has armor, but we're just gonna give Potemkin double machine gun. That is what we're going with here. If you don't know double machine gun, you got machine guns in your fingers and they fire. That is how the ability works. Pretty simple. I'm pretty sure they were originally like on his fingers, but it was stated that he cut off the tips of his fingers and now they kind of just pop off. So his forward special can be similar to Blaster's, where you can just shoot a barrage of bullets to the point that it turns into a beam. His back special can also utilize this ability by firing a giant barrage of shots that can mainly be used to secure wall bounce, which means that this move will most likely be used as an assist to set up for point players. And yes, I am being pretty creative with these just because, sometimes, gun shoot, that's all we see. I gotta be creative. And honestly, down special will be similar to Blaster, 45-degree angle, and then neutral will be the photon shot type of thing. I know we've pretty much made Franklin and Blaster very similar, but to combat this, we can make Franklin's moves last shorter, but be able to do more damage. Now, the main way I want him to play is as that slow zoner. Like Pot, Franklin will not have a dash, some of his normals, and his back special will have some armor in tow too. The slow movement plus good corner control means that Franklin will be hard locked into the support role, especially because most times you're just going to go for full screen zoning. But he can still be as good as the fighter on the field. He can still be good. And he has options to keep the opponent trapped, as I said, with the down and the back specials. So while Franklin is going to be pretty slow, he's still got a lot of potential. Now, Franklin was the last of the spiders to rank above Chrollo in physical strength. So obviously for the last initial spider we see in York New City, I'm going to have to get creative, but there's still one that fights a lot, and that is So here's the hard part when thinking about how Nobunaga will play. The thing is, we've never seen his Nen abilities. Ever. Don't get me wrong, we see him have such a good mastery on N and have a really strong N field, but other than that, he doesn't really use Nen. That's okay though, because we can still see him fight a lot. He's still a very strong swordsman. He was on the front lines with Uvojin, and now is on the front lines usually with Finks and Phaeton, like in the Succession Contest arc. Moreover, he goes into stances a good amount, which I think we can use to make a very strong neutral-based stance character. For example, we can have his neutral special activate his Nen field for about, let's say, 5 to 10 seconds, which we can make it as big as like a character length away from him. Obviously, a lot bigger in the canonical material, but we're trying to be fair on a fighting game setting, so it's not going to be the entire goddamn screen. If anybody steps into his N field, they'll get countered. So you're going to try to zone. He can still fire against those projectiles, but hey, at least you're safe. You can also give him some pretty strong normals with some range on his sword, so that he can still be a very strong whiff punisher. Again, very neutral footsie space, so gotta be able to whiff punish. Let's just give him Nago's 2H and a lot of his other normals too, honestly. Nago's very good inspiration. Another samurai, so pretty strong there. And for the back special, of course, it can also be a stance where he readies himself like this, and if hit, he'll just pull off a bike and parry. There's honestly not much else I can think of him, honestly, and I hope further on into the Succession Contest arc, we finally see what his true abilities are. But speaking of the troops, specifically in the Succession Contest arc, we got So we already got most of the antagonists in the completed arcs. We got Hisoka from the first two, we got Chrollo from York New City arc, we got Genthru from Greed Island, and from the Chimera Ant arc, we got Meruem. But we didn't get Illumi from the Chairman Election arc, which I think is a crime, especially because Illumi had a very strong presence throughout the show, and of course was the main thing constantly stopping Killua from reaching that full potential that we initially saw during the Hunter exam arc with that needle he very much implanted in Killua's brain. And that's the potential. The needles are very prime candidates for easy fireball option. Pretty much just think of Hisoka's cards. We can make them do a little less damage because the main thing I want to use here is his needle people and his corpse control abilities. Now, how Illumi's main Nen abilities work is that Illumi sticks a special needle into a person, and from there that person is under Illumi's control until they die. Once they do, Illumi has corpse control as an option, where he's able to pull a multiple amount of pins into the corpse to bring them back to life, but as a zombie under his control. Speaking of zombies, remember Jill Valentine specifically from Marvel vs. Capcom 2? And the fact that she can summon zombies as the slow-moving projectiles? Yeah, have his needle people come in like her zombies as the backward special. And Illumi can use that command again to make the needle person flop over dead. The corpse will stay on the ground for about 15 seconds, and if Illumi is able to throw 3 needles on the corpse with his forward special, he can revive them with corpse control to bring them back to Illumi while also keeping his opponent on his toes. For his down special, we can also make this a teleport. I think a teleport would be pretty strong. And yeah, I think this would make Illumi a bit more of a complicated zoner than Hisoka, especially because you gotta worry constantly about being able to revive your corpses. And honestly, to make that easier too, we can just do similar to Hisoka, make his air forward special a downward arcing needle. And, you know, make his down special too an upward arcing needle, like a bunch of the other zoners we have made today. But, hey, he's got chopping potential. He's a bit more of a complicated zoner than Hisoka, but I think that's fair, since Illumi and Hisoka have a very back and forth relationship. They're bros for life, honestly. They're bros for life. So there you have it. My first pass with the Chimera Arc pass, and the second one with the Phantom Troop pass, I think is pretty strong. Plus, talked about some other potential characters that I just want for myself. But either way, we're about to see Nen Impact released. I'm trying to get this video out like a little before it releases, but knowing my work ethic, it's probably going to be after the game releases. So everyone's going to have their hands on this game already. I mean, it's the 13th at the time of recording this. Tomorrow is early access. So yeah, everyone already has their hands on this game. I do too. I'm probably having fun with it right now. And even if it doesn't reach crazy numbers, I mean, it's going to be at F2Con in Tennessee. It's going to be at EVO France. It's going to have some game. But if it falls off, hey, we still have a very fun 18-tag Marvel game. That at least, until we get to Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, at least it's like, hey, we got a tag game that's basically Marvel. Now, I'll say this, I wish we had motion inputs in this game. I hope that happens in a future update. Directional inputs are fine, but I wish we had the option for both. I wish, but hey, I can't be stewing on that for too long. I'm still very excited to get my hands on this game, and we do know DLC is going to be happening, like I said before, so hopefully we continue to get more DLC down the road as more of a niche game that the Marvel heads will come to and be like, hey, this is fun. Why don't we just run a few games on this? Why not? But with that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.